Okay, never done this before, like, ever, so fuck it. Let's give it a shot. Here we go. I am dumb. I am in the business of saying dumb things. It comes naturally because I am a dumb person. That being said,
If I spoke about it, if I did, what would I tell you?
actually, Richard, when I was trying to figure out how to talk about this movie, I thought it was going to be hard to find something interesting to say. Not because the movie's not interesting, by any stretch, but because I didn't think there was a chance that my thoughts, as they existed after my first viewing — I've now seen the movie 11 times — would fit into the conversation as anything but background noise. In short, I assumed everyone would be talking about this movie. And it's not that we're not, it's just that the dialogue surrounding it feels intentionally, obsessively uninterested. I should point out that I am wholly unqualified to do this with the same brash confidence of so many wonderful content creators that have served me platters of hot YouTubian insomnia roasts that I have chewed to the point of exhaustively having to make this video. Not to talk about the wizardry of filmmaking or storytelling, because I am very much not an expert with any credibility to lend, but to ask a series of questions this film has forced me to ask myself over and over again, beginning and ending with the same one. What is the shape of water? So Del Toro calls his new film a fairy tale for troubled times. He has repeatedly spoken of the inspiration he took from old Universal monster movies, in particular The Creature from the Black Lagoon. He tells the story of when he was 6 years old and first saw the creature and found himself rooting for the romance between the damsel and the monster. He's held on to the idea of making a movie that reverses the fortunes of both since he was a child. That movie came out in 1954, and obviously a lot has happened since then, be it in Del Toro's life, the monster movie and fairy tale genres, or just, the world. For a more in-depth exploration of the historical and cultural significance of this film as it pertains to media and popular culture, I implore you to check out both this video by Laron Reedus of Reedus 101, detailing his connection to crushing on monsters, through the lens of his experience as a queer man of color living in America, and this video by the lovely and intellectually effervescent Lindsay Ellis, which dives headfirst into how this film loves, learns from, and relates to the material of its predecessors, in large part thanks to Del Toro as a mainstream director being willing to go there. And yes, we will get there. Side note, Lindsay, I love you. Let's get some coffee and have, all the babies. I mean, they say don't meet your heroes, but damn. All right, synopsis. Here we go. The Shape of Water is the story of an international game of tug-of-war over which global superpower gets to use a newly discovered fish man in order to further the needs of its space program. No, that can't be right. Sorry, let me start over. The Shape of Water is the story of one gay man struggles to satisfy his ex-boyfriend's fetish for commercial hand-painted Jell-O ad while dealing with the existential crisis of finding out his new god is just one more animalistic pussy eater.
I don't know.
Okay, wait. The Shape of Water is the story of a chronic people pleaser learning the power of positive thinking and slowly, painfully squeezing from his gangrenous fingers the ability to call his coworkers by their first fucking names. You were speaking Russian, Bob. So, yeah, The Shape of Water is a fairy tale. I get it. Beauty meets Beast. Beauty enlists friends to help save Beast and protect forbidden love from evil monster. Love wins. But is that it? Is that all any of us have to say? Isn't there some reason this movie exists, other than to be the Deadpool of fairy tale movies? I mean, it did win Best Picture, which puts it in the company of seriously conversation-worthy pieces of art, right? Okay, maybe not the best illustration of my point, but there's more than one way to look at things, and sanitizing one's own bubble often comes at the cost of concentrating the filth surrounding it. Oh man, that was like a forest for the trees type thing, but with like a water theme. Kind of like the movie. God, I am fucking nailing this. Let's talk about candy. Michael Shannon plays Strickland, the antagonist in the story, referred to in no ambiguous terms as the monster who tried to destroy it all. Strickland has something of a fixation on this one particular brand of hard candy. They are such an integral part of his character that near the end of the film, when it comes time for his brooding monologue over the bloodied body of his nigh-defeated opponent, he makes no mention of legacy or destiny. He offers no grand scheme or twisted rationalization. He talks about candy.
This candy, it's cheap candy, but I love it ever since I was a kid. Now, sometimes if I'm feeling anxious, just bite right into it. But mostly, I take my time.
The candy represents the indulgent pleasures he enjoys as a straight white man conformed to a world built for him. His position of power, the impunity he enjoys with his violent and intimidating tactics are easy, cheaply attained, and goddamn delicious. But that's not the whole point. This scene begins with just over 17 minutes to go in a 122-minute film, leaving no time for the viewer to enjoy this character quirk by noticing how it adds to the tension of Strickland's scenes with other characters. In fact, one could argue that since the cat is out of the bag on the candy, and the plot for that matter, since this is the same scene in which he finds out the creature was stolen by Eliza and Zelda, then the candy becomes pretty worthless after this scene, as the tension is redefined. Also, he rips off his fingers and dies in the following scenes, respectively, so fuck candy? This monologue serves no purpose to the rest of the movie. It serves no real purpose for the scene that it's in, really. Did he really get Bob's confession because he admitted to an oral fixation? Nope.
That lovely dingus right there is an Alabama howdy do.
This scene exists for one purpose: to get the audience thinking about the film that preceded it. He even turns away from his victim and faces the camera when he goes into the speech. The movie is practically begging the audience for a second viewing, which brings us to intent. Let's go back to the beginning. I want to talk about my two favorite shots in the film. The first, fittingly, is the very beginning of the movie. We are introduced to this story universe via a single long shot that starts on the ocean floor. Seaweed ebbs and flows, bubbles rise up and out of frame, and the rocky walls of a cave surround us as we enter the hallway leading to Eliza's front door. The music swells as furniture and fishies float and swim all around the underwater apartment. Richard Jenkins espouses,
If I spoke about it, if I did, what would I tell you?
this movie is a fairy tale. Like one that already happened, like one being read to us from a book, or at least the memory of a white grandfatherly narrator passing it down to a new generation, like, you know, a fairy tale. But think about that first shot. To bring his audience into the setting of his story, Del Toro takes us out of the magical and into the real as the water disappears and Eliza wakes up. The magical underwater world in that first shot literally framing the setting of the story proper. We are being told from the word go that the magical aspects of this film are a framing device. Giles is the grandfather from The Princess Bride, treating us to his favorite story while we lie sick in bed, bitching about kissing scenes while secretly loving every minute of it. The fact that the story in that movie came from a storybook was not the point of the film. It was there to create a context through which to view the message of the in-universe fiction. This film is no different. The fairy tale aspect is used with intent. The story therein is meant to be contextualized against the very idea of the fairy tale. So the narration gives way to the omniscient point of view of the story. We are introduced to our heroine, Eliza, through a series of morning rituals, including a vigorous bathtub masturbation set to a literal egg timer. She takes a sandwich to her friend and strongest ally, Giles. They watch Shirley Temple and Bill Robinson dance on some stairs, and then Eliza dances her way down the hall and out of the building, giving way to my favorite series of shots from the entire film. Now, this is going to get a little masturbatory here on my part, but hey, when in Rome. The first shot starts at the top of the Orpheum sign, panning down over the marquee to reveal the two men putting up the names of the two movies currently playing there, The Story of Ruth and Mardi Gras. The second shot shows Eliza interacting with the owner and landlord of the building. He gives her free tickets to the Bible movie. The third shot shows Eliza walking across the street to begin her day, and we hear the owner guy yell at his helper that one of the titles is missing a letter, shouting, Mardi Gras! Mardi Gras! Until a giant fire truck comes screaming into wait, what, fire truck? Oh, right. There's a chocolate factory totally on fire in the background. Did you even notice that? Okay. Maybe you did, because I was telling you to pay close attention to the shot. This is an analytical essay. The point is, I didn't until the 4th time I watched this movie. And I think it is the strongest piece of evidence that this movie's intent is more than just a modern fairy tale. Alfred Hitchcock's famous bomb under the table theory of suspense goes like this. We are now having a very innocent little chat. Let's suppose that there is a bomb underneath this table between us. Nothing happens, and then all of a sudden, boom, there is an explosion. The public is surprised, but prior to the surprise, it has seen an absolutely ordinary scene of no special consequence. Now, let us take a suspense situation. The bomb is underneath the table, and the public knows it. The public is aware the bomb is going to explode at 1 o'clock. The public can see that it is 1:45. In these conditions, the same innocuous conversation becomes fascinating because the public is participating in the scene. The audience is longing to warn the characters on the screen, you shouldn't be talking about such trivial matters. There is a bomb beneath you, and it is about to explode. The fire at the chocolate factory has no bearing whatsoever on the plot of the movie, and as we see in this scene, and the one previous where Giles casually mentions the romantic combination of tragedy and delight present in the scent of toasted cocoa, God, how did I seriously not notice the fire? It has no effect on our characters either. It is there for the audience alone. It is a bomb under the table, designed to create a sense of unease while watching our characters live their lives, eat their cakes, and make sweet, sweet fish love amidst a crumbling world. Giles makes it very clear for us later that he has no interest in acknowledging the ugliness surrounding him when Eliza turns on the television and finds local news coverage of a violent riot.
I do not want to see that.
The movie goes to considerable length to include scenes and elements that are purely for the benefit of the audience, and not just in the name of suspense or intrigue. Take this scene. Strickland has called Eliza into his office to clean up a spill that he intentionally created. He asks her a series of disturbing questions about her handicap.
You say you're mute. Are you entirely silent, or do you squawk a little?
He sexually propositions her, and yes, it is a moment that comes at the peak of his invincibility, and serves as a particularly creepy moment for his character, but does nothing to strengthen Eliza's resolve to save the creature, imbibes no change to the type of adversary he represents, and creates no shift in tension. The ticking clock is what demands the rescue must happen that night, and holy shit is this not Strickland's creepiest scene, not even in a sexual context. We already weighed in on his sexual predilections, and his role as a totally bad dude has been well established at this point. So why is it important to play up the relationship between Eliza and Strickland? And why like this? Because this movie, in a certain sense, is about wish fulfillment. The silenced woman gets an opportunity to not only realize and save her one and only ideal mate, but she can also say, fuck you to the male oppressor with relative impunity. This is the movie confronting the sad truth that fairy tales and the image they cultivate is a lie, based on our desire for an idealized life, but also celebrating the art form's unique position to serve as revenge porn for the downtrodden. The fairy tale and the monster movie have always posited that the other holds up a mirror to our own shortcomings as a society. And this one certainly does that, but it goes a step further in its attempt to redefine an undeniably tropic story formula for a new demographic. In an adult fairy tale, love is not sexless. The protagonist's I want song is replaced by daily masturbation and an egg fixation. Prejudice is not sharply aimed at a singular representative of all things other, and the conspiratorial nature of the world is so vast that the bad guy is ripped to shreds over his pressure to deliver.
Deliver, that's what you do. You deliver, right? Right?
The movie tears down the modern relevance of the fairy tale ideals and bludgeons us with the notion that we are consumers, and the ones selling us the story know exactly what we've come to see. Oh, you want a modernized genre subversion that utilizes Del Toro's signature visual talents and love of magical realism to actualize some extrapolated Rule 34 Beauty and the Beast shit that completely overshadows the whole point of the film? Well, here you go, you bored, lazy, voyeuristic, popcorn-eating motherfucker. Here's your sex scene. I hope you choke on it. In an adult fairy tale, one's wish is not fulfilled by assuming the role of the MacGuffin-wielding chosen one who slays the dragon or true love's kisses all the death away. It's fulfilled by shunning fear and vulnerability in the name of love, in order to find smaller victories on the way to resolution. Now, closing doors that deserve to be closed while the grown-ups talk about grown-up shit, I want to talk about monsters. But first, let's get something out of the way. I need to make a confession. I am not mute, nor am I a woman. I have no idea what it is like to be Eliza outside of her general social castaway doing her best to surround herself with a small cast of friends who offer at least a modicum of respect and understanding thing. For serious though, Giles and Zelda learned sign language in order to be friends with Eliza. And there weren't no YouTube to make that shit any easier. That's pretty cool, you guys. But in scenes like this, and this, my emotional involvement will always exist within a gradient between, like, sad and happy. Like one of those pain scale cartoon things. My connection to this character, and therefore my commentary on her struggles, will never contain the nuance and relevance of someone with, shall we say, a more proximal set of circumstances. Though that is a conversation I would love to have, say, over coffee. But the first time I saw this movie, I couldn't believe the uncanny timing of it. I mean, an unflinching view of our current sexual climate told from the point of view of a literally voiceless woman, through the lens of a fairy tale, our favorite celebration of fabricated innocence. I was in awe of the braveness in it, that this fluffy little man was so ready and willing to take the story he's wanted to tell since he was 6 years old, and use it to draw a line in the sand, rather than just let the creature, i.e. himself, get the girl. He asked himself instead why the creature should deserve a princess's love, and the answer he apparently arrived at? Because the creature is not us. He is so not us that he must be of an ancient time, undiscovered and untouched by a world that twists men into a cacophony of befuddled dicks, ranging from limp and listless to full-on electric shock-inducing delusional metaphors. And yes, Internet, I know that the creature from the 50s was also ancient and undiscovered. Del Toro didn't invent that. But look at the changes he did make to the character. The creature of old was violent, reactionary, and relatively easy to kill. He murdered members of the expedition that discovered him and kidnapped the woman he was curious about. He was actively destructive and warranted an active response from the human. The Shape of Water's creature is captured, held, tortured, fed, befriended, seduced, and set free. With the exception of 2 violent actions distinctly framed as equally measured reactions to Strickland's violence, he is a completely passive character. This is important to note because it underlines 2 key changes to the form of the original. This is not a monster. This is a god. And this is not a man. This is a monster. And in this universe of active monsters and passive gods, what are we, men, measuring ourselves against? Sorry if you feel left out, ladies, but this question is for the dudes. Seriously, guys, who can you compare yourself to in this movie? Because for me, it's probably just this guy. Just smoking cigs, making weirdly out-of-control messes.
There's pee freckles on the ceiling now.
And generally not participating. But then again, I'm the guy who thought it'd be a good idea to use my first ever YouTube review as a platform for singling out a woman I've never met, making her uncomfortable by proposing we get coffee and procreate so that I might get a laugh, maybe even piggyback a little on her success and hard-earned reputation. And yeah, the joke might have landed for some of you, hell, maybe even her. But does the fact that you chuckled, or rolled your eyes, or waved me off as silly or harmless make it any less invasive? Should the mindset that created that joke continue to go unchecked, or perhaps should we attempt to reevaluate our own sense of decency? Let's go back and ask the only human male character in the film that gets exactly what he wants and loses nothing in the process.
A man has the decency not to fuck up. Now that's one thing. That's real decent of him. But the other kind of decency, it doesn't really matter. We sell it, but it's an export. We sell it because we don't use it.
The fairy tales of old tend to live more and more in the realm of novelty as we get older, because our growing sense of individualism breeds an entitlement to assume exemption from the types of consequences they represent. We've built our own sophisticated systems of justice, so we don't feel the need to fear monsters so long as our capacity to acknowledge and or punish them is in working order. But this is not the fairy tale of old. It is a new breed that comes barreling toward us with a message of love and understanding, asking some uncomfortable questions with some deceptively simple answers. Reassess your idols. It's okay if they don't look like you. And seek truth over victory. Seek decency. Take it back from those who seek to sell it. And don't fight fire with a magic sword. Fight it with water. For like love, water is only shaped by the vessel that carries it. One more thing. Sorry. I just got to rub this one out real quick, okay? You remember that scene from earlier with the movie theater and the landlord guy yelling at his friend about the spelling of Mardi Gras? Yeah, that was weird, right? Like, he owns a movie theater that shows old movies. And they already spelled it with one S on the front of the sign, which you can see pretty clearly here at the end of that same shot. So, why are we talking about missing letters? Touché, movie.
É brasileiro, tica, tica, bum, tica.